It's time for the Archaeology Lab. So, remember the time when the sun was just a little bit brighter? There was a little bit more joy in your life? You know the time when you were at stage 3 in the archaeology process, you were digging, you were in a romantic location, living the archaeology dream, weren't you? Well, now you're at step 4. You're in the lab, my friend. You're gonna have to deal. So what do? You're back at the ranch, your digging is over, and you have a big pile of artifacts. Well, you're gonna have to organize it all. The number one theme of the lab is organization. Just remember that. Stick with me, babies. Organization, okay? I don't really care how you organize. There are a lot of different ways to organize an archaeology lab, and I'll talk about, kind of 2 or 3 or 4 of the most common. But no matter what, you need to come into the lab with the thought of some sort of overall organization. Organization is key to the whole process. And once you pick one of these various styles of organization, just stick with it. Everyone's going to tell you you picked the wrong one. They're going to be like, oh, you're doing it that way? Ooh. Don't listen to that. Once you pick an organizational scheme, stick with it. So, when we come back into the lab, what are we going to do? We have these artifacts. Maybe they're kind of vaguely bagged and tagged. Maybe there was a lab director on your archaeology project who's kind of gotten this stuff together in some base way, but now you have to do the intricate, more exact aspects. To do that first, you're going to need tools. What kind of tools do you find in the archaeology lab? Think about it. What would you have there? And I will say, it's pretty cliche. It's pretty straightforward. Some scales for measuring the weight of the artifacts. You'll have various kind of calipers and other measuring equipment to measure the size of the artifacts. What else is going to be in the archaeology lab? You might have camera equipment to document the artifacts themselves. You are going to have, you are going to, at this stage, prep your carbon-14 samples. You're probably not going to do your own carbon-14 work, let's be honest. That's really, really high-end. But you're going to prep the samples and you're going to send them off, right? So you're going to do that in the lab. You're going to have a lot of boxes and bags and tags. The lab has all kinds of that stuff. And those boxes and bags and tags are going to be, they're going to be acid-free. So these are special bags and tags that over the years, the artifacts won't be hurt by the bags and tags themselves. So really, that's the kind of stuff that you're going to find in the archaeology lab. Little sorters and sifters and organization things, that kind of stuff, right? Pretty straightforward. It's just that you need to put the time in. I know there was so much romance and joy back there in the jungle, but now you do the real work. So what do I mean by the real work? You organize archaeology artifacts by their attributes. I know. Another lame archaeology jargon word. Attributes. What are attributes to real people? Characteristics. Characteristics. An attribute of this shirt is that it's gray. Right? It is a characteristic of this shirt. It's gray. It's made out of cotton. Those are 2 attributes, 2 characteristics of my shirt. Right? So you understand that all artifacts have attributes. They're made out of stone. They have a different color to them. They have a certain weight, a certain size, whatever. There's a million different attributes. Right? So we want to realize that, step 1, that we're going to organize these things based on their characteristics, their attributes. Now, there are certain specific organizational schemes, I guess you could say, In archaeology, they're called typologies. You can tell by the roll of my eyes, typologies, not my favorite word in the archaeological realm, because we can annoy ourselves saying typologies all day, or we can just say a category. Typologies are just different categories that we use for organization. So we could be like, I'm using these various attributes for my typology. Isn't that impressive? Or we can be like, dude, I'm putting a bunch of characteristics into categories. See, it's the same thing, right? So we want to not be scared of attributes in typology. Just think of it as characteristics that we're organizing based on certain categories. Now, what are some common typologies? What are some common categorical themes that we use in archaeology? There's a couple. We can do categories based on chronology. That would be, you could have a chronological typology. A chronological typology. What does that mean? Organizing stuff by how old it is. Chronology, it's age. So a chronological typology, you'd have like, this is the stuff from 500 AD, this is the stuff from 200 BC, and so on, right? You are organizing the artifacts by how old they are. You see how that's just one choice of many? You could organize your artifacts, you could use a functional typology. What? Otherwise known as, say it with me, organize the artifacts by what they're used for, their function. Here are the hunting weapons. Here's the religious objects, and so forth. You see where I'm going here? They're all different. All these typologies are different. Here's a real tough one. A stylistic typology. Oh. Kinkella, I'm unsure. You're organizing your artifacts by their style, right? What stylistic attributes do they have? What stylistic characteristics do they have? Organizing by style. And then finally, the fourth one that I'll give you guys, a material typology. Organizing them by what they're made out of. The material that they're made out of. Oh, these are bone. Oh, these are stone. Oh, these are metal, or whatever. You see, we have right off the top of my head, I got 4 different typologies, 4 different categories that I can use based on the characteristics of artifacts. I could use any of them, right? If I'm doing my shirt, I could organize my shirts chronologically. I could organize them by how old they are. I could organize them by function. Is this a shirt that I just wear for going to the gym? Is this a really nice shirt that I use for going to a wedding? I could organize them by style. Oh, these are the ones with no collar. These are the ones with a collar. These are the ones buttoned down. These that don't. I could organize them by material. Oh, these are made out of cotton. These are made out of polyester, and so on. You get it? A mile of terrible names. Terrible jargon. We have stepped into a minefield of terrible jargon in the lab. But fortunately, behind it all, pretty easy. So realize that once you stick with one of these major categories, and why are you going to choose these categories? It's based on your research design, man. What you're ultimately looking for, the questions you're trying to answer. So maybe the material types are what is really going to matter for you. You know, what they're made out of. Maybe it's just what they're used for. Doesn't matter. Pick one, go with it. You're gonna be fine in the lab. Don't be scared.